Now then, section 3.10 looks at language and location support, a very, very cool feature of Windows, something that caters for using different keyboards. Something I've got quite a bit of experience in when I was working in Germany and also in France. You've got to be wary of the fact that different countries have different keyboards. The layout of the keys is actually completely different. So you've got to be wary that Windows will actually pick up on those signals coming from the keyboard from a certain space on the keyboard, a certain area of the keyboard, and it will interpret those keys depending on what keyboard settings you've got. Let me give you an example of this. There's a task that actually runs through this in the notes, section 3.10.2, which demonstrates various things to you. But let's just take a quick look at the an abridged version of that task effectively. If we go to the Start button down here, and then onto Control Panel, we want this date, time, language, and regional options. Incidentally, guys, I'm talking you through how to get to all of these things. It is important that you know how to get to these things, because a lot of this stuff will be on the exam, i.e. how do you get to this particular screen, and you've got to know the exact steps to get there. So be wary of that. And bear in mind, you won't have a screen in front of you when you do this, as was demonstrated on the last course. So we click on date, time, language, and regional options. We've got regional language options down here. If we select that one, then it's going to open up the window. So here we go. Regional options. Obviously, we've got English United Kingdom configured at the moment, so we have various number methods in terms of how we write our dates. Obviously, the way that we write our dates is different to the way that they write their dates in America. The Americans tend to put the month first, followed by the day, and then the year, whereas we do the day first, then the month, then the year. Also, obviously, we use the pound symbol, and other countries use different currency symbols. So obviously, all of these settings are relative to our current location. If we take a look at languages as well, and then if we go to details, you can see that we currently have a couple of settings in place. We've got an English United Kingdom keyboard, and we've also got an English US keyboard. Now, I'm not too interested in having a US keyboard and a UK keyboard, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get rid of my US keyboard, and I'm just going to keep hold of my United Kingdom keyboard. Notice at the moment, though, we have this little EN down the bottom here. What do you think this EN relates to? It's kind of a clue, it's just popped up. English, yeah. And if I click on this, notice I have the capability to switch over to United States keyboard if I wanted to. Yeah. So let's remove this. And now we've just got a UK keyboard. I need to just move this window up so I can click on the OK button. If we OK that, if we go back into details, you see that we only have now the United Kingdom keyboard. Now, what I've actually done in this task, I've got you to install a German keyboard just to show you a particular exercise. It's a big issue I had when I went over to Germany, so it's useful for you guys to be aware of this. Especially, this is the key point, especially if you're sitting at a computer in the UK managing a machine in Germany, using the power of the network to connect through to a computer in Germany, and you're typing things on your keyboard, those signals are going through the network to the machine at the other end and being deciphered by the machine at the other end. You with me? So those signals will be deciphered by the machine at the other end in different ways. So if I'm pressing certain keys on my keyboard, what's coming up on my screen in Germany is going to be different. You need to be wary of this. It's an issue I had a few problems with when I was managing my email servers over in Germany, sorry. So we need to click on Add. Select the language you actually want to use. So we need to put in Germany, and obviously various different dialects for Germany, but we are going to select the German dialect, so as opposed to Austrian and so on. Keyboard layout is obviously German. Click OK, and you'll see that we now have this additional keyboard installed. And if I OK this, notice the EN has disappeared, by the way, because when we've only got one option, what's the point in having that icon there? Because we have no other choices, so it's just going to get rid of it. But if we click OK, then you'll find that the EN has now appeared again. Now I've done a little exercise to actually prove to you how this works. Let me show you. If I open up Notepad, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a very specific set of keys. So in the notes here, right at point number 15 of this task, you'll see I've got a certain keystrokes which I'm actually going to press here. And first off, I'm using the English keyboard. So watch what happens when I press these keys. First off, I'm going to press this key right here, which is the squared bracket. Look what happens on screen. I've obviously got a squared bracket. If I then press the next key, which is obviously the other squared bracket, then you'll see that the same input actually applies on the screen. Nothing special so far. Whatever I'm typing is appearing on screen exactly as we'd expect it to do. So let's just go through the rest of these keys. I've got colon key, I've got the little apostrophe key, and I've also pressed the Z key as well, which is down on the other side of the keyboard over here. So I hit the Z key there as well. Then obviously that is going to appear. So if we take a look at our actual our actual output here that's actually been displayed on a screen, we can quite clearly see square bracket, semicolon, apostrophe, and then Z. Let's go down a bit. Now I'm going to change my keyboard over to a German keyboard. So if I select EN here, change it over to German, notice that this now appears as DE. Now I'm going to press exactly the same sequence of keys again. I'm not pressing different keys. So here's the first key, square bracket. Totally different output. Other square bracket, totally different output. Semicolon, apostrophe. What was the fifth one? And then Z. If I press Z, we get Y. That's because on a German keyboard, the Y is where the Z is, and the Z is where the Y is. If I actually press the Y key on my keyboard, then you'll find that I now get a Z. Yeah? So you need to be wary of these differences in various keyboard options. Obviously, if you're working on machines in other countries, you're going to have to change what you have on your particular machine settings. I had a big issues when I did some work in Paris, because I was working on a laptop over there which had a French keyboard. French keyboards are completely different. The keys are in different places. So when you're used to typing on an English keyboard, all of a sudden you're back to going dunk, dunk. And of course people are looking at you in the office thinking, is this guy an IT expert? Because you're struggling, and then they twig that you're English, and they go, oh, the English. But no, it was the keyboard, honest, it wasn't me. So you can see here, very good demonstration, I think, of how you actually have different keyboard settings. And this is a very good example of this, because obviously when you go to other countries, you're going to have this issue. Yes?
So if you were typing on a keyboard here in England, dealing with a computer in Germany,
yeah,
how would you know what you're typing? Would you have to have a spare keyboard?
You would have to have knowledge of where the keys were on a German keyboard, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Well,
could you not like have a spare German laid out keyboard?
Sure.
Just plug it in.
Plug that in, yeah. But then you'd have to set your system up to handle that German keyboard.
All right.
Because otherwise it'd be handled. All we're demonstrating here is the fact that there are different keyboard formats, and that's the important thing to bear in mind. Because it can be, what I'm getting at is you can sit there and you can start typing things, and all of a sudden different things happen. It's like, hang on, I wasn't expecting that. I'm pressing on my key, and a classic one, practically the only difference between an English keyboard and a US keyboard, if you look above the 2 on our keyboards in the UK, we've got the speech mark. Whereas on an American keyboard, it's the @ symbol for email. So if they're pressing 2, look, I'm pressing a speech mark, and it's coming up as the ampersand, the @ symbol.
Pound sign as well.
Yeah, and pound sign as well. So these are going to be issues. And on a UK, US keyboard, you can get away with it most of the time. But German, French, a lot of people obviously have only ever worked on English keyboards, and therefore presume that this is the keyboard design for the whole world. The whole purpose of this task is to demonstrate that that's not true. Yeah?
Yeah.
Good stuff.